Today, we are going to be looking at the topic comparison of pets, companion animals, and laboratory animals. We all know that animals are kept by humans, and the animals kept by humans can be grouped into pets, companion animals, and laboratory animals. But they differ in purpose, interaction, and management. Now, pets are kept for pleasure or leisure, while companion animals provide emotional support and bonding to the human subject. On the other hand, laboratory animals are used for research and experimentation. And from the definitions, we can see that they are different in terms of their purpose and use. Let's look at some of the similarities that we can see in the three categories of animals. In terms of biological and physiological needs, all the three categories of animals, that is, pets, companion animals, and laboratory animals, will require adequate nutrition, water, and shelter. All the categories have physiological needs that must be met, and they are all susceptible to diseases and require health care, that is, the attention of veterinary doctors. Number two, all the categories of animals depend on humans for survival because they depend on human care. They depend on humans for their welfare, which is linked to management and the quality of that management. When we look at the welfare considerations, we talk about increasing emphasis on humane treatment across all categories of the animals. We need to treat them humanely. We need to consider their welfare. In addition, it is important that all the three categories have access to provision of veterinary care and proper management practices. We also talk about ethical awareness, in which case ethical concerns exist in all the categories of animals, be it laboratory, pets, or companion animals, although it is more pronounced in laboratory settings. There are also societal expectations which increasingly demand responsible animal use. So this ethical awareness is common to all categories of animals. Now let's look at the differences when we begin to talk about pets, laboratory animals, and companion animals. The first indication of differences is the purpose of keeping the animals. Pets are kept for pleasure and recreation, whereas companion animals are kept for emotional support and bonding, which is different from the purpose of keeping laboratory animals, which are kept for scientific research and experimentation. Secondly, there exist differences in terms of their human-animal relationship, whereas pets interactions varies from minimal to affectionate. But for companion animals, there is strong emotional attachment, which is often regarded as at times as being members of the family. On the other hand, laboratory animals are primarily functional in terms of emotional attachment is limited or discouraged. In other words, the purpose of using laboratory animals are different, and the issue of emotional attachment is little or not existing. And where there is tendency, it is usually discouraged. There are differences in terms of the reason for selection and breeding. Pets are selected for appearance, uniqueness, or ease of care, whereas companion animals are selected for temperament, intelligence, and sociability. But for the case of laboratory animals, they are bred for genetic uniformity and experimental consistency. In terms of housing requirements, there are variations. Pets and companion animals are kept in homes or domestic environments, and their environments are enriched for comfort and interactions with human beings, while laboratory animals are maintained in highly controlled environments, and such measures as temperature are regulated. There is the regulation of the light and dark cycles, and a high level of hygiene and biosecurity are maintained. In terms of welfare priorities, pets focus on comfort and general well-being, while for companion animals, the emphasis is on emotional health and quality of life when their welfare is being considered. For laboratory animals, emphasis is always on ethical treatment while ensuring scientific validity. In fact, the guided principles that are used for the welfare of laboratory animals are the 3Rs principle. And the 3Rs are replacement, reduction, and refinement. There are also differences in these animals when we consider their lifespan. For pets and companion animals, the aim is to maximize lifespan and their well-being. It is always expected that they will live long and as long as possible, and their well-being at the same time is being maintained. Whereas for laboratory animals, their lifespan may be controlled or shortened depending on research objectives. For example, if the research objective is to slaughter the animal and then look at the internal organs, their lifespan will be shortened because of the research objective. These animals are also different in terms of their emotional and social value. When we consider the pets, they have moderate emotional value, while companion animals have high emotional and psychological importance. On the other hand, laboratory animals have limited emotional value in practice because they are essentially for experimentation and research. Considering the ethical and social perspectives, pets and companion animals have increasing recognition as members of the household, and they also have strong legal protection against cruelty. In our earlier study or lesson, we have mentioned that it is unethical to treat pets and companion animals cruelly. Laboratory animals, on the other hand, are subject to strict ethical regulations and institutional oversight. In fact, there's an ongoing debate about animal rights where scientific advancement is involved. Which one is more important? Is it the animal rights or the scientific advancement for which the laboratory animals are intended to be used for? Therefore, there is growing adaptation of alternatives such as in vitro methods and simulations instead of using laboratory animals for research and experimentation. But where these alternatives are not available or are impossible, animals will be used for this purpose. There's an overlap between pets and companion animals, whereas all companion animals are pets, but not all pets qualify as companion animals. The key distinction lies in the depth of emotional interaction and the purpose for which the animals are used. In conclusion, while pets, companion animals, and laboratory animals share similarities in their biological needs and dependence on the humans, they differ fundamentally in their purpose, management, emotional significance, and ethical frameworks. Companion animals represent a more specialized subset of pets with deeper emotional roots, whereas laboratory animals are primarily maintained for scientific and experimental purposes under strict regulatory conditions. A clear understanding of this distinction is essential for animal welfare management, veterinary and animal science education, as well as research ethics and policy formulation. This is how far we'll go today in our discussion. Thank you for attending the class.